Joining us now is Frank Morano. He's the host of The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano on WABC Radio. He's covered this topic extensively on his radio show, and my old friend Liz Plank. She refers to herself as, I don't know why we're saying she refers to herself, but she is a feminist activist and is the best-selling author of For the Love of Men. Good to see you, Liz. Liz, let me start with you. You know, you heard the conversation I was just having with Chris Cuomo about sort of, you know, at some point, is the sentence served for Kevin Spacey? Do you think that he should be, will be accepted in Hollywood at this point?
Call me crazy or old-fashioned, but I don't think that being rich and famous is something that Kevin Spacey or any man is entitled to. It's not in a Geneva Convention yet. Maybe it will be a human right one day, but you have to earn that, right? And if producers no longer want to put you in films because those films don't do well, which the last film that he did do since these allegations came out tanked at the box office, that's kind of a you problem. It's not really a me problem. It's not really an us problem. That's how this industry works, unfortunately. And that's how capitalism works, right? We like that part. We like that consumers get to decide and reward things that we like, people that we like. And he is just not someone that we like. And whether that is warranted, whether that is valid, you know, we can talk about that too. But just to touch on the interview, I think it's so fascinating to me that he still kind of makes jokes or makes light of this time that he has put in, right? Sort of saying, I wish it wasn't 7 years, I wish it was 7 games. To me, that does not signal someone who has thought about what he's done and who has any, I mean, he has to have a redemption arc here if he wants to get the fame and all of that back, and I don't see that happening right now.
Right?
You know, I expected to disagree with Liz a lot more, but based on her fundamental point, we're in agreement that this is up to the consumers, and we should have a choice whether or not to enjoy Kevin Spacey's work or not. And unfortunately, what's happened is we're being denied that choice. Netflix has this Gore Vidal movie that he did, and they put it in their pocket and have refused to release it or give it back to the producers so they can sell it to someone else. I want to see that Gore Vidal film. A lot of other consumers do. Release it, put it out there, let us decide for ourselves whether we want to watch it. But instead, Netflix, and I think it's to cover up for their rush to judgment when they fired him from House of Cards, they're just burying it. They're not selling it to another producer or letting us watch it. And that's not right.
Let me play another piece of sound from Chris's interview with Kevin Spacey. This is number 6.
But there are also people that I've spoken to who are, they love me, they believe in me, they've stood with me in private, personally, all the time, but they're afraid to stand up. And I've been very fortunate that people have been honest with me about that. And I think that's a shame, that we've come to a place as a society where people are afraid to say what they believe and what they feel because they're afraid they're going to get canceled too.
Liz, it seems to me that's probably objectively true, no?
I mean, I think this cancel culture conversation we could obviously spend hours talking about and deliberating, but it seems to me that a lot of the people who are claiming that they've been canceled are actually given a lot of chances, right? They're just, again, speaking of Kevin Spacey, there was a movie that came out, Billionaire, someone find the title, something with the word billionaire in it. It really did not do well at the box office. So that's what happens, right? If there's not a demand on the consumer side, those films are not going to be released. It costs a lot of money for these producers to go out and for Netflix to put out movies, and sort of the risk of putting it out too, which they don't want to, you know, get involved with.
But it's more than that, right? I mean, they are fearful, are they not, of the condemnation that they're going to get, right? The protests possibility.
Yeah.
And that picture that didn't do well, and I think he's made a total of 5 films since his ostracization from Hollywood, that was released prior to his vindication in these 2 cases. He's now been vindicated in 2 different cases, criminal and civil, in 2 different countries. At some point, at what point does the presumption of innocence that the legal system gives you trump this judgment by media that should allow you never to work again?
In that area, I disagree with you, because the presumption of innocence is just for a courtroom. Right? We intentionally stack the deck in favor of the defendant. The court of public opinion can make its own decisions, right? I happen to think that Kevin Spacey's right, that no one can pick him up because they're so afraid. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.